Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real. I'm sorry. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Live with the Real Secrets of Money with your host, myself, Damon, the agent. And before we begin, please, if you're not following me, please follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Now, that's all way. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and we're going to begin in the wonderful world of real estate. Today, I'm going to talk about the current market updates. What's going on in the wonderful world of real estate? Because people are asking, I'm getting questions here, there, everywhere. So let me begin what's going on. Now, the first quarter of the year between January and the end of March 31st, we saw increasing sales go on. But in April, the market has slowed down tremendously in April. If you'll recall one of my previous episodes, I had mentioned about the DC market. Well, it's not just in the DC market. This is happening nationwide. Nationwide, there's a trend going on. Now, just want to read something that I read recently to give you an update of what's going on. It said home sellers are pricing too high and not listening to the market. Home sellers are pricing their houses too high and not listening to the market. I had kind of elaborated about that when I was talking about what's going on in the DC housing market, but this seems to be a nationwide trend going on. Now, in April, there was a lot of price reduction that occurred, more price reduction than which is normally expected. And that's because people have started to see that things haven't moved. And plus, there's been a lot of uncertainty because of the current administration that's in the White House right now. There are people who are fearful that they may lose their job. And because of that, it has affected so many people, and it has a domino effect on everything, whether you're selling houses, whether you're selling cars, whether you're selling anything. It is having a huge impact on what people are doing when it pertains to their finances. Now, I do want to tell you there are still houses that are still actually moving out here. People are still out here buying houses. It just really depends on the house and the location. But April showers brought a lot of slower sales across the mid-Atlantic. Okay. And I'm just going to focus on this particular area because this is where I am. But in April, and I just want to show you not show you, but give you some marketing housing information. In April, in the Mid-Atlantic region, which includes DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and it also includes Pennsylvania. Okay. The median household was 425,000. The median days on the market was 9 days. The pending sales was 22,484. Closed sales, which was 18,615. A whole lot of new listings in the month compared to, and all these numbers are always compared to last year. Now, let me just go over. Closed sales is down compared to last year, same month, same time. Median home price increased 3.7%. And this is also what I had shared in previous market updates, that if you look at the annual increases, like, for example, we're in 2025. If you look at the average annual increase from 2020 to now, houses have increased, I believe it's over 15 or 20%. That's a huge amount. That means if a house was originally priced at 300,000, that means that house is probably worth 360,000. That's how much things have increased. But the days on the market from a year ago, it has increased. The number of pending sales, it has decreased by 2.5%. The new listings that are on the market, it is 0.9%. And this is what I want you all to really pay attention to. From 1 year ago today, active listings currently in the Mid-Atlantic region, it is 40,956. But that is a 29.2% increase, a 29.2% increase. It basically means there are more houses on the market now, way more than before. Again, in the last show that I said, we were shifting from a seller's market into a buyer's market. Now, clearly understand, and I'm going to say this even though I said it on my last podcast, and go check it out if you haven't, the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market. A seller market meaning there are more buyers than there are houses, and the demand is extremely high. In a buyer's market, there are more houses than they are when it pertains to buyers, and buyers have more options to choose from. In a buyer's market, buyers have leverage. In a seller's market, sellers have leverage. Now, from 1 year ago, the active listings is a 29.2% increase. I please want all sellers to take that into consideration, because just like I read before, where it says home sellers are pricing too high and not listening to the market. This is because everyone thinks their house is better than their neighbor. And what they fail to realize is the timing. Timing is very crucial. Even though your neighbor might have sold their house 2 years ago, look, anything more than 3 months ago is outdated in real estate. And this is what a lot of people fail to realize. In the wonderful world of real estate, you're only good as your last 3 to 6 months, 90 to 180 days. 90 to 180 days. And the reason is as the season changed, the market changed. Just like during the spring and summer market, the days are longer. People are on vacation. So they have more people out looking for homes, getting ready for the next school year before wintertime. Wintertime, days are shorter. Some people don't want to go look at houses on the wintertime. It's too cold. They want to stay in, watch football or whatever. So because of these behavior effects of people, it has a huge effect on the market. Now, I'm only going to say this again. If sellers overprice their home, your house will just sit and it will become a stale listing. Of course, everybody want to make as much money as possible, but you got to be realistic. You got to ask yourself, do you need to sell? Do you want to sell? If you need to sell, you need to actually adjust the price accordingly. Now, if you just want to sell, you're just testing the market to see if you can get it, because people like to say, oh, yeah, well, we'll put it out there at this price, this high, ridiculous price, and we'll see, we can always negotiate. That's not how buyers think, and that's not how buyers look at it. Sometimes buyers will look at an overpriced listing, and they'll feel like the seller is unreasonable. Why they price so high? Sometimes even go look at it just to see. They'll see there's nothing special about your house compared to a house that actually sold 6 months ago, but yet you're substantially overpriced. Your house is going to sit on the market. Now, the reason I'm giving this market report and this market update is so people can understand and know which way to proceed and how to proceed when they want to buy or sell. Now, even with buyers, right now, buyers have a gaining a leverage in the market because there are more houses for them to choose from. So because of that, they got plenty to look at. And in some cases, buyers have good negotiating. If they have good negotiating skills and know how to leverage, they can actually get things from the deal that they want. Now, I say that all to say is, please don't go in there being ridiculous. If a house just came on the market today and you want to offer them $50,000 less, and then you want them to take care of everything, and you want them to throw in all this incentives and a newborn baby too, and all this other stuff. No, it's not going to happen. Stop being ridiculous, please. You know what I'm saying? You're wasting people's time. And I just, of course, I threw the joke in there with the newborn baby, just to say that people are extra sometimes, and they ask for too much. Be reasonable, be realistic when you're making deals and you're negotiating. Like I said, for sellers, of course, you want to sell it for the most possible. Houses have increased over the years, but right now it is shifting. And because it's shifting, you need to price your house accordingly. If you overprice it, it will sit on the market, regardless of how many open houses are done, regardless of how much marketing material is put out there, no matter how many times it's posted on social media. It will see. People will see it. Meaning if you go to various websites such as homes.com and Zillow and all that, you can see the number of people who see it. People will actually see the houses. But seeing houses don't matter if nobody makes an offer on it. Okay? So I just want to keep that in mind when it pertains to this market update that I've given. I'll be right back in a second. Okay, Q&A, which is questions and answer. I only have one question today, right now, unless someone is posting right now. And the question is, and this question has been asked many times, and I've answered it too, but I'm going to ask you anyway. The question that's being currently asked is asking, when will the market crash? When will the market crash? That's a question that keeps asking. It's like people are waiting and hoping that the market crash because they think it's going to dip down to some substantial, ridiculous price. When, let me just give you some number. First of all, the answer to that question is no one knows when the market is going to crash. Okay, we don't have a crystal ball and say, okay, yeah, on May the 17th, the housing market is going to crash. No one knows. You know, you have people who can predict and everything. And like I said, the economy coincides with the housing market. If we go into a recession, the market will crash because you won't have anybody who can afford to buy houses. If we go into a recession, the market will crash. That is my prediction. Now, as far if and when, I cannot predict that. And again, people are waiting on that, but please be realistic too. If the market does crash, prices are not going to drop from 500, 700, 800,000 on a house coming all the way down to 80,000 or 100,000. It's not going to do that. Just like people have to understand how foreclosures work. Foreclosed properties today, the prices are not like foreclosed properties back in 20, 25 years ago. Let's say 1999, 2000, around that time. Do you all remember the prices of houses back then? Single family home, some of them were under 100,000 easily. Nice homes, some of them priced 300,000 easily. Now I say that to say that if you have a house that's priced as, let's say, $800,000 home, and it goes into foreclosure, it might sell for 600, maybe even 500 if you're lucky. But guess what? 500, 600 is still more than some people can actually afford. So please keep it in mind that prices dropping is not going to drop to the point to necessarily your affordability. It's going to drop to a certain percentage of whatever the bank deems is a good price. And I say that to say that always keep in mind that even if the housing market does crash, prices will drop, but it does not necessarily mean it's going to drop all the way to the year 2000 prices. There's only certain percentage that prices are going to drop. You know why? Because there are many more people out here today that make much money than they did 20, 25 years ago. There are a lot more millionaires today and a lot more people who can afford things today. So as long as people are always spending and buying, prices will not drop all the way down. Then if buying comes to a complete halt and nobody buys for a long time, and what I mean by long time, meaning over a year or plus, then things might happen, but I don't see that happening. So again, that's the only Q&A for today. Now, I also want to talk about budgeting. Now, even though a lot of people are adults, I find it that a lot of people do not balance checkbooks. People swipe their debit cards, their credit cards. They do not have a bill ledger to actually balance their books. Some people, after they go out on the weekend, they're actually scared to look at their bank account and their bank statements because they're fearful it's going to be in the negative. And some people have overdraft protection, which is great. But there's a rule to money, people. And one of the things is if you can't handle a little, how do you expect to handle a lot? And I say that to say that if you can't balance whatever you get, no matter if you get 100,000, you get 50,000, you get 25,000, you get 250,000. If you can't balance that and know and follow your spending, then it is detrimental to you more than anyone. So even though we learned the basic maths in school, I just want to go over a few things with a few people just to hopefully help them to get realigned. First of all, I would strongly recommend that you'll Google or go on to Amazon and purchase a bill ledger. That is to help you balance your checkbook. Like I said, some people don't do it, but it's very simple math. It's just plus and minus, addition and subtraction. If you start to do that, then it will start to make a lot of sense to people and you will be able to keep track of your spending. And once you become more familiar and able to keep a track of your spending, you will find things will begin to change. Now, I would suggest to also balance your books on a weekly basis, whether it's whenever your downtime, if your downtime is on Sunday, maybe Sunday night. If your downtime is Monday, maybe Monday morning. Whenever you have downtimes, please balance your bill ledger weekly. Okay. Um, Always ask yourself the question, do I need this or do I want this? The reason why I say this when you're out there spending things is you'll find out a lot of times we spend things based off what we want more so than what we need. A lot of times we don't need to go out and eat. We want to go out and eat because we don't want to cook or it's easier or quicker. We don't need to order DoorDash. We want to order DoorDash because it's very convenient. That's why DoorDash hit you with that DoorDash convenient fee. I say all this to say, start to ask yourself the question, do I need this or do I want this? When you start to make personal sacrifices for yourself, you will find a shift that occurs in your life when it pertains to your financing. Now, the last thing I want to say is also is learn to invest. A lot of people will get money and they'll put it into their 401k, which that is an investment. But if the market goes up or down, so does your money. Meaning you can gain $25,000 because the market been up, and then you could turn around and lose $55,000. Then you're crying. Learn to invest properly is what I say. I don't mean by FanDuel or whatever the thing is, sports gambling and everything, because I find in this country, a lot of people have an addiction to gambling. I'm not talking about necessarily playing the lottery. I mean, I understand when the lottery jackpot gets real high, everybody want to take a chance on that. I'm talking about learning to invest, whether it's small or simple, whether it's $25 a month, $50 a month, or $100 a month. Most people will spend and waste more than $100 a month on eating out, which is good for the moment and it satisfies you temporarily, but it doesn't give you long-term gain. And I say that to say it is, learn to invest in something at a minimum price. Now, again, like I said, first of all, get a bill ledger. You can order that online. Second of all, balance your bills weekly. Okay. Remember that, balance your bills weekly. Third of all, always ask yourself, do you want or do you need something when you're paying for stuff? Because a lot of people just really want stuff. You don't really need it. And then fourth of all, learn to invest in something. Because a lot of times people say, oh, I'm not going to spend money here, there, and there. And then if something happens, people want to do GoFundMe and want sympathy. Create your own bank by making proper investment. It's what a lot of the wealthy do. Listen, hopefully those little small tips that I just gave you when it pertains to budgeting helps you in the long run, because they're very simple, people, but they mean a lot. All right. I'll be back with my topic of the day. All right. Thank you again for joining me. Please, before I go into my topic of the day, follow me on all social media platforms. The platforms are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat, Pinterest, and TikTok. So my topic of today is grown entitled adults. And matter of fact, let me specify what I mean by entitled adults. This goes for everyone. I've seen a lot of times in my lifetime how people are. I see how family treats people and everything. But I feel like in this world, in this country, we have more and more grown entitled adults than ever before. I'm talking about people who not only entitled kids, because that's a group, and I'm going to talk about them briefly, but I'm talking about entitled adults where some people feel like they deserve certain things. Now, I was speaking to some people recently, colleagues of mine, and they married, they got good spouses, and one of the person who their spouse moved them out of a townhouse where he was paying all the bills. She wanted to move into a bigger house. And then when she moved to a bigger house, she brought her parents to move with her. He still paid all the bills. He only asked her to pay something small, which was the HOA. He said $300 a month. That's all I want you to pay. She paid it a couple of months. She did, and then she stopped paying it. And then she bought a $1,500 wig and said she deserved the wig, and she felt like she shouldn't have to pay anything. And I told her, "You're a terrible wife." Okay, I was just being direct. You're a terrible wife. If your husband upgraded you from a townhouse to a single family, he paid all the bills, and then he allowed you to have your parents move in with y'all, which the utilities are going to be more. And he only asked you to pay something simple like that, and you only did it for a couple of months, but yet you went and bought a $1,500 wig, which would have covered the HOA for 5 months. You're irresponsible, terrible adult. And when I looked at her, then I was speaking with someone else, I said, God, it's so many entitled adults, not just grown kids, because a lot of us have grown entitled kids in which a lot of kids these days are waiting for their parents to die so they can get the life insurance or so they can get the house and get some money, but they really don't care for their parents. You know, I go visit my mother in a nursing home quite often every week. And when I leave here, I'm going to see her. But even when I go there, I don't see no people visiting the people who are there. And then by me selling houses also, I've had many situations where I've seen grown adults look for the money they can get from the sale of the home as quickly as possible, while only one person is really mourning the death of their mother or father or both. But everyone else is looking for something. Everybody feels like someone owes you something. If anyone in this world treats you nice, be privileged and happy and be thankful, because to be truthful, nobody owes you anything. Nobody. Your parents don't owe you when you become an adult. Your spouse don't even owe you just because y'all married or living together. Nobody owes you anything. But the problem is, so many people, we have such a spoiled society that everybody feels like they're entitled to something. Everybody feels like somebody owes them something. You know, everybody feels that way. And it's a terrible mentality that we have out there with all these entitled adults. Why do you think that you deserve something? Because to be truthful, if you pass away today, this world's still going to keep going. That goes for all of us. This world going to still keep going. You know, lights going to keep going all and all. Sun going to keep going up and down. People going to keep moving. People going to move on. So instead of people being appreciative, everybody feels entitled to stuff. They think they deserve something. I deserve this. No, you don't. If somebody gives you anything, it's because they want to. They don't have to. If somebody's doing something for you, it's because they want to. They don't have to. The problem is everybody thinks they owe something. And that's a huge problem, whether you realize it or not. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. And I just want people to realize that you're a grown person. You are to do for yourself. Unless you can't do for yourself. You get so old and you can't do for yourself. And that's, like I said, seeing people in nursing home where they can't do for themselves. So people are, you know, assisting and helping them. But I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people around my age, younger, whomever. Everybody thinks somebody owed them something. Everybody looking to get something from someone. This is a selfish and entitled society we live in. And it ain't, and I'm not just talking about men, women, black, white. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody feels entitled. When you're driving, you can see it the way people drive. They feel entitled to speed up and get in front of you and slow down instead of just getting behind you. You know, you really want to get up, just get behind the person if you want to slow down, but they feel entitled. So no, even though you're in the lane, they want to speed up and then hop in front of you only to put their brakes on. And then instead of staying focused on the road, they want to look in the mirror and stuff, because they feel entitled. See, this is the world that we live in. And I ain't gonna lie. I'm a very people person and I love people, but sometimes I can't stand people. And I can't stand people because of the selfishness that we are, the way that we are, the selfishness, the way that we feel entitled. You know, I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie. I really don't. I wish that we would all take a self-reflection of ourselves and look ourselves in the mirror, because a lot of us need a lot of changing done amongst ourselves. But the problem is, can't nobody say nothing to you. You're either delusional, you're in denial, you're on the defensive, or you're deflecting. Can't nobody say nothing to you. And that is why a lot of times the life we live is the life we live because of the way we act and the decisions that we make. Listen, when I say things, this is not directed at anybody specific. It's just my observation of things that I see out there. But if it can make you to look at yourself, to look in the mirror so you can become a better person, I pray that it does, because unfortunately, we got terrible people out here, y'all. There's a lot of terrible people out here. Terrible. But the problem is so many people are so judgmental. They in other people's business and so ready to quickly criticize someone else to take the attention and spotlight off of them. But truth be told, we all got problems. We all got flaws. None of us are perfect. And everybody's poop stink. But people think they poop don't stink. Yeah, okay. I'll be back with my recap, y'all, in 5, 4. All right, y'all, this is my recap. And before I do my recap, please, again, follow me on all social media platforms. TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, my recap today is the housing market update. Listen, like I mentioned last week, we are shifting over to a buyer's market. And a lot of houses that are currently on the market are sitting on the market longer because they're substantially overpriced, because many sellers do not want to listen to the market. It's not your house. The market dictates everything, whether it's a seller's market, buyer's market, how much you can sell your house for or not. Listen to the market as you listen to a professional like myself, because, hey, you're not a professional, unfortunately. And if you were, you'll understand where the market is saying right now. And then I also just talked about entitled adults. Look, it's far too many people out there feel like somebody owed them something. Don't nobody owe you nothing. Nobody owes you anything. You're the only person who owe yourself anything. Stop feeling like somebody got to give you something. Don't nobody got to give you nothing, not even attention. Because to be truthful, a lot of people don't even deserve that, but people feel entitled to that too. That's why people are always doing things for likes and clicks and all this other stuff. Listen, this is the world we live in. This is the world we live in. It's the American way. And that's all I'm going to say. Look, thank you. Hold on real quick. Thank you for joining me. And I also want to invite you all to come back each and every Friday at 12 noon. And if you have any questions, real estate related, please always send me your real estate questions. And I thank you all. And I will see you next week. Same time, same station. Have a good one, y'all.